Hello and welcome to a new episode of Jawjacking with James. I was taking several days of thinking up new things to talk about and planning out how to do them. So we don't want to go too many days without making a new episode. And we're just going to go right into it with I earlier mentioned talking about classic film. So this is going to be part 2, and we're going to start talking about classic films themselves and how, despite the disappointment of majority of modern films that we see nowadays, we have in excess of 100 years of classic film that is better. It was made in a time of, hey, why don't we actually entertain people instead of just putting bullshit on film, basically. And I'm continuously finding more old films that I either heard in passing or haven't heard of, and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. The old saying is they really don't make them like they used to, and it's very clear that they are not making them like they used to now, because perfect example, there's a older film called the Jamaica Inn from 1930. I want to say that's just quick Google search here. Yeah, Jamaica Inn from 1939. Yeah. Stars the always great Charles Laughton and Maureen O'Hara, and a lot of old school British actors in it. And it was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. That's why it was also even better than it was. But now I'm looking at the internet scores for it, and they're not very. They're treating it like an average film. I'm like, that is unacceptable to me. But that just goes to show you that a lot of modern quote-unquote critics wouldn't know a good film if it punched them in the face. And it's very clear here that they clearly didn't get it, or there was an extreme amount of bias. Well, I'm going to say the latter, because modern movie critics and a lot of critics in general seem to, always have their head up their ass. And it's one of the reasons why I want to become a film critic, so I can be a counter to them. And apparently a lot of other people on the internet share that sentiment, because a lot of people don't trust critics anymore. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because they're terrible at their jobs. I mean, say what you will about Siskel and Ebert. At least at times they were right about movies, and, despite some of their skews, at least they were enjoying films, and I take influence from them, even though I disagree with some things they've said. Moving on. But yeah, in 1939, one of the best years in Hollywood, where you had like the whole roster of let's see, I know that Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz was in there, but yeah, Yeah, let's take a look at that. Because if we look at the 1939 Oscars, it was kind of packed. Yeah, Gone with the Wind, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Jesse James, Babes of Arms, Wizard of Oz, Goodbye Mr. Chips, Dodge City, Rain Came. Some of these movies I haven't seen, but a lot of them were, let's see. Here we go. Yeah, Stagecoach, Of Mice and Men. Wuthering Heights came out that year. So, and I'm also looking at every film released that year, and Son of Frankenstein came out that year. Let's see, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I don't think I've seen that version. Hound of the Baskerville, damn. There are a few films here I need to put on my to-watch list. Tarzan Finds a Son, wow. Yeah, 1939 was definitely a big year. Wow. Yeah. I will comfortably say that was definitely one of Hollywood's greatest years, and that just goes to show you just 1 year. 1 year that you look at, you can go through all of it and find tons and tons of great classic films. I'm gonna probably switch around to other time frames and work with other genuses of movies. Like, I'd like to talk about another favorite type of film of mine, like film noir. And I like to talk about classic westerns and classic war films, if at all possible. But that's just a very good example of, if you want to look up, just go to a year and just pick films from there. Your 1939s, your 1940, 1941, go a little forward, 1950s, 1960s. Then you go to the second golden age of Hollywood in the 1970s, where basically all the old guard of Hollywood producers and owners of all the film studios, they all either died or retired, and then corporations took over all the movie studios, and they were desperate to get people to go to theaters, so in the 70s, they basically greenlit anything and everything just to see if it would make money, and that's how you get your, basically, your second golden age of film in the 70s, where we get basically the birth of the first blockbuster with Jaws. We get a redefinition of sci-fi with 2001, Space Odyssey, your Star Wars, Alien, the Star Trek motion picture, which was kind of copying a bit from 2001. You can clearly see it, so they should have tried a little more to just be Star Trek, but a movie. But, and then you go into, the 80s, which, had tons of some of the best horror, sci-fi, comedies, just great slice of life films. Just going off anywhere from 1980 to halfway through the decade 1985, you have almost every other massive film that everyone to this day still watches and tries to copy from. And then you work your way into the 90s, and there's still great films there. Some of them aren't as great as they should be, but there's still quite a few gems and little nuggets of gold in the 90s. If you would ever, once we go into the new millennium of the 2000s, movies kind of are losing that 90s aesthetic, and we're starting to get into the modern age of more digitally filmed movies instead of just the traditional old film stock. And you'll notice the big change because in some films, a perfect example, if you watch Fight Club, they mention the cigarette burn in the upper right corner. That's where a editor makes a cut on a film stock. So if you ever watch an older film and you see for a brief second, see a little kind of like circle or ring in the upper right corner, that's where an edit was made, and it was called in the industry a cigarette burn, because they had cut out a piece of film and added a new piece of film. Thusly, the cigarette burn of an editor. And of course, it's a perfect example to explain it, and a good visual, and highly recommend Fight Club. Good transitional film from your 1990s to early 2000s film. But it came out in the 90s. It came out in 1999, didn't it? Just do a quick verification of that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did come out in 1999. All right. Just had to make sure. Sometimes I have to double check myself. That's why whenever I do these, I make sure to have Google on standby so I can verify myself, because I've got a lot of, trivia and facts and things in my head, and some of them are overlapping with one another, but it's all there. I just have to hone in and talk about one particular thing so I can get all that out and have Google on standby just to verify certain things for me. Because I've spent a long time sitting down, watching films, not talking to girls, watching shows, watching TV, playing video games. I have talked to girls, but, just not as much. Once you start getting past, after a certain time frame, you start to see the switch of films. They start to be less, you start seeing less of a film made to make a film, and more a film made to sell a product. It's that problem that we're seeing either. We're seeing this is a cycle basically of. It's the cycle that because Hollywood has done it before, where they remake movies, like in the I want to say the 1910s, 1900s, and 1920s. Hollywood made tons of films, and once film went to sound, when they perfected sound on film, and they could actually talk instead of having to have audio stills and prompts and have a live orchestra play the movies to improve the experience. So in the 30s and 40s and even into the 50s, they started remaking a whole bunch of older films just so they could implement sound and improve them. And a good example is Ben-Hur, made in the 20s and then remade in the 50s, and substantially improved with better better audio, since the first Ben-Hur had no audio. But they remade it, and it's considered one of the best films ever made, even though it's technically a remake of an older film. I think it still had the same director, Cecil B. DeMille, in it. Yeah. He just remade the same film he made 30 years later, except even better. And less people got killed in it. Yeah, that's something to always remember, that in a lot of older films, people got hurt a lot. And something to consider, because you'll see people get flushed with water in some older movies, or have things thrown at them, or they make full contact when they are doing a fight scene, as it will, and it's pretty hilarious. But in the modern era, everything's either a sequel, a remake, or a reimagining, or a prequel, and sometimes that's a good thing, and a lot of times it's a bad thing. I mean, an example of a good modern Hollywood remake would be Judge Dredd. Originally, not a bad casting idea in the original one to have Sylvester Stallone. I mean, he's big, has a kind of semi-square jaw, but a defining aspect of Judge Dredd is that he never, ever removes his helmet. And they immediately make him remove his helmet, and it is immediately ruined. Plus, it was made by Disney, so it's like you're going to adapt a comic book that's ultra-violent and dystopian, and have Disney make it. It was a subsidiary studio, but they were owned by Disney, and it's like you can't have Disney make a movie like that. Even back then in the 90s, they had an image, but it's just like, why would you do that? But the more modern Dredd, with Karl Urban in it, that is a perfect example of Judge Dredd, and that is a remake that does everything right. And if you're going to make a remake, don't do shot for shot of a remake. Perfect example of that would be they made a shot for shot remake of The Poltergeist, one of my personal favorite horror movies, because it has horror, but at the same time it has a lot of thought-provoking things, and even on repeat viewings, it still gives me that sense of hair going up on the back of my neck kind of feeling, because of the thought-provoking horror it implies. And that's good storytelling, and that's good filmmaking. The remake just shot for shot redoes everything that The Poltergeist did without doing anything different. I mean, I'm not here to say I hate all remakes, but if you're going to make a remake, either, I don't know, pick an aspect of it and make a movie that's, a bit like, the original, but you do your own spin on it. It's not hard. I mean, there have been several remakes. I mean, I just mentioned Dredd. There's Manhunter. Let me think, what else? What's a good remake? It's not, I'd have to, let's see what we got here. Let me do a quick, good remakes. There's, The Thing, The Mummy, Scarface. There's the original version from the 30s, which is actually pretty good. But, the modern version of Scarface is a lot better in many ways. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that's another really good one, yeah. The Fly. Yeah, there are good ones out there. Then there are a lot of bad ones. I don't know why The Earth Stood Still is here. That was not a very good movie. I don't know why Roadhouse is here. That was a terrible remake. But there are good remakes out there. Just there are more bad ones than good ones. I mean, something they should really do is take older bad movies and remake them into good movies that had good ideas and good plot ideas and a good story in there somewhere. It was just executed terribly, and remake those into good movies. Like, let me think here. I got a perfect example of how to remake a hokey bad movie into a good movie. There's a movie called The Giant Claw from the 50s, made during the atomic age of sci-fi horror movies. And basically, a giant space vulture comes to Earth and attacks Earth. And dramatic pause for that. Take that in. I'd recommend watching it just to see how silly it is, and I'll probably do another episode talking just about 1950s sci-fi horror movies. Despite how bad they are, a lot of them are pretty damn entertaining, and here we are in 2024 still talking about them, so they have an impact. But yes, a space vulture. That how they explain it is that it's immune to all things because it has like a black hole force field of some kind, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, even though it's a sci-fi movie, it still doesn't make sense. And they basically have to invent a black hole force field neutralizer laser thingy to stop it. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Plus the giant vulture puppet looks really dumb. But if they were to remake it as a new creature feature, use better modern animatronics, VFX with CGI for some things that are a little hard to film with puppets. And I think it could be a pretty cool movie. I mean, work it in for eventually he fights Godzilla or something. I mean, it could work. Why not? Plus, there's a lot of other movies that could probably get that kind of treatment and be like, whoa, now that's a good movie. Like, in the 80s, they made a whole bunch of classic sci-fi movies with, the apex of VFX in the 80s, which is, we could do that again, and I don't see why we can't. But, why not? Why not do that sort of fucking thing? Why not? I mean, we could totally fix old films and make them good again. And, that's all I got for now for that. Anyway, I want to thank you, the listener, for sticking around and listening to me babble on about movies for a little bit. I plan to do more. This is going to be part 2. I'm going to think up and do part 3. I'm not going to take as long as a break as I did for, not so break, but, not doing episodes. Got to try to be more consistent, and I've gonna put it out there that I'm going to do more more episodes of long format and then short format, and just put weight of volume out there, so no matter who comes to visit, they have something they can listen to. Either it's short or long, or just me ranting about my life, or me talking about particular subjects that I like to talk about that they want to listen to. And that's going to be the plan moving forward now. That's going to be the order of the day. So anyway, I want to thank you, listener, for listening. And if you aren't already, try to give me a follow and, give me a share. That way more people know about me. And you have yourself a good day. See you around.